It's so difficult and is kind of, terrible in a way, but yet when you finally come to the finish, it feels so good to have accomplished something that's so incredibly difficult.
Welcome to another episode of Flagstaff Bound, a special Cocodona 250 series brought to you by Distance to Empty and Aravaipa Running. I am Kevin Goldberg, host of the Distance to Empty podcast, where we dive deep into the world of 200 plus mile races just like Cocodona 250. As always, I'm joined by everyone's favorite co-host, Peter Noyes. Today's guest is a really special one for us. He was our first ever guest on the Distance to Empty podcast. We are over 60 episodes in now, and it is great to have you back, Wes Plate. Wes is no stranger to the 200 plus mile distance, and if you've run a 200 or thought about running a 200, there's a pretty good chance that you've spent some time with Wes, either on the treadmill, watching YouTube, or maybe on your couch, fantasizing about your next race. He is back for another go at Cocodona 250 this year, and we are excited to have him on the show. Wes, thanks for joining us.
It's good to be back, you guys. Thanks a lot for inviting me on.
So, Wes, we were chatting before we hit record. You're about to leave to drive down to run the Arizona Monster 300. You're one of, I think the number is 21, and we've had a few on this series who are running both Arizona Monster 300 and then 4 or so weeks later, Cocodona 250. Obviously, this is a series, revolving around the Cocodona 250 race, and Cocodona 250 is a really, really, really hard race. So why do you keep coming back and doing it?
I feel like it's kind of been a series of almost accidents in a way. I did the inaugural race because I was so excited to do an inaugural race. And then I was excited to go back for year two because I was excited to find out how they were going to fix the problems from the inaugural race. But then year two had the fire reroute. So then I thought, oh, well, now I'll go back for year three so I can get on the original course again. And then I think at that point it was like, well, let's go back for year four because then I'll get 1,000 miles. And along the way, I've just become such a part of the community, and that it's such a good shot in the arm for ego and just making me feel like I'm a valued human to be at the event, to meet a lot of people who have, like you say, have seen my videos. And so just being a part of the community at Cocodona is so meaningful for me. I just love to go back and re-experience it.
So you've been through this course before 4 times, although they do tweak it a little bit each year. But overall, largely the same. What lessons from the first 4 Cocodonas are shaping your strategy on the 5th one?
Well, I think it's the things that I've learned is that by having the experience of the course, it gives me so much confidence to know what lies ahead and to know sort of what it takes to get there. A lot of people know about the challenges of that first day. And one of the things that's great about having been on the course multiple times is that when I'm in the first day, going up some of the climbs that feel like they're just taking your soul from you because they never end, having the experience of the race gives me just that sort of the knowledge of, actually, if I just get to the top of that climb, I know that that's the top, or maybe I know that's not the top, but maybe just around the corner, there's going to be the top. And that experience gives me a lot of confidence and I guess just helps me to keep moving, because when you don't know at all what lies ahead and all you see is a giant climb, I think that can be pretty daunting. So for me, it's just having that experience of knowing that some of the climbs that maybe look bad on paper aren't that bad in real life. Other climbs are bad in real life, but at least I know that they do finally come to an end. So it's the experience that I'm going to be relying on a lot this time.
Yeah, I think the course knowledge is a double-edged sword. I think mostly it's a good thing and really helpful. It makes even the uncomfortable more comfortable. But it can really help. So Wes, you ran your first 200 plus mile race, I believe, back in 2019.
That's right.
And you could see through your videos that you're very reflective and thoughtful on these experiences. So what is the is there a deeper why to continue at this distance? Like, you've obviously, like you said, found yourself part of this community. You enjoy it like Peter and myself do as well. But is there a deeper why as to why you continue doing these multi-day races? And it's okay if not. I know it's a big question.
Yeah, well, the experience that I have during these big 200 milers is so difficult and is kind of, terrible in a way, but yet when you finally come to the finish, it feels so good to have accomplished something that's so incredibly difficult. And I think I keep coming back because I feel like this is one of the things I've learned in my life that I can accomplish, that I can do. I feel like I'm good at it. And I have enough voices in my head that are telling me about all the other things that I'm not good at, that this is just a nice thing to do to really challenge myself, but also to reaffirm to myself that I've got some value and that I can be successful at something. And so it's a nice, so it's just a reminder. I have to work really hard, but it's a reminder to get to that finish and to just feel really accomplished and feel powerful.
And then these events, they're more than just races. They're full experiences, being out there multi-a-day. And for you, you decided to share all of your experiences with everyone. So really, what drives you to, document these journeys as you go through them and share them in your video format?
Well, I started making videos back in 2019. Actually, at the end of 2018, my first 100 miler was the first video that I made. And my whole motivation for making the videos from the start was that I knew that in the future, other runners would be looking on YouTube for content about those races, so that they would be able to train and have some recon for what it looked like. And I just wanted to provide my experience as a part of that reconnaissance and educational library on YouTube. And that was the motivation. And I keep on doing that now because as the courses keep changing, I can be one of the people who keeps on documenting the course. And I like to share the experience that I'm having. And I certainly hear from a lot of people who find that the content is valuable for them and is helpful and educational to them. So it just adds even more motivation for me to share my experience, because I know that not only is someone going to get good recon and training education, but some people are also just going to have maybe an inspirational experience. Or I've heard from a family who they put their videos in front of their toddler and the toddler will go to sleep. So some people will get to sleep as a result of my videos, and that's rewarding as well. So it's really fun to meet the people on the course who've seen the videos. And so there's a good side to that too.
Wes, I do listen to shows typically to go to sleep, and I can confidently say that I've never watched one of your videos to go to sleep. So
thank you, Kevin. That's good motivation for me to keep making videos if you're not going to be falling asleep for them.
Maybe I'll listen to them during Cocodona to keep me awake. There you go. It is pretty cool to think back. My first 200 was in 2018, so similar to you. And I mean, it still is the Wild West to a great degree, but man, back then there was nothing on these races. I mean, it was, back then it was the Wild West. It was just the plains. At least now there's a saloon and a general store set up in the Dust Bowl. But it's and you've been at the forefront of that, which is very cool. So when we have someone on who has as much experience as you do at the distance, we like to ask questions like this, which, hoping you can give some tidbits of knowledge for people who are maybe stepping up to the distance for their first time. So what's a piece of gear, Wes, or a strategy that you think is underappreciated in 200s that's not used and should be used more?
One thing that I often I talk about a lot that I don't see many other people talking a lot about, it's a feature of a piece of gear. So I wear a Garmin watch, and Garmin has a feature called Climb Pro, where if you have a course loaded on your watch and you're navigating it, one of the data screens will show you the statistics of the current climb that you're on. It'll tell you that, this climb has 2 miles left to go and you've got 1,000 miles left, still to climb up it. And there are certain times when I'm on a long climb and I'm like, what the heck is with this climb? So look at the data screen, and it's so informative. I feel like it's a cheat to be able to know actually where the top of that climb is. When people talk about watches, it's usually people are asking about battery life. And so a lot of people talk about Coros as a result of that. And in my experience, I tried Coros, but for me, the features were lacking compared to what my Garmin had. And so I ended up coming to the conclusion that personally, I'm going to take a nap during a 200. So I don't mind charging my watch during that nap time. So battery life isn't the most important thing to me. To me, features are quite important. Anyway, the Climb Pro feature on Garmin is game changing, and I don't hear enough people talking about it. So I like to bring it up. It's definitely worth checking out if you've got a Garmin watch. Search for Climb Pro online. There's a lot of information about how to use it, but it's certainly a very powerful tool.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, I'm Team Garmin also, and yeah.
Yay.
So you mentioned your first 200 back in 2019, back in the days, before the insanity of now. Now we have Cocodona with the live stream. Our podcast is evidence that this thing's really growing, and there's wait lists and lotteries and whatnot. So definitely this community is growing. So what do you love about that growth? And what do you also hope never changes?
I love seeing just how many new people are coming into the sport. A lot of younger people are tackling the 200-mile distance, which I think is just interesting because there's also so many adults and grown-ups and older people in the sport. And I think I like both of those things. I certainly like the influx of young people. I think that there's so much that people can learn, like almost spiritually, about themselves as a result of these multi-day events, that if a younger person can experience that, I think that's going to give that person a very special experience to take them into their older years. But what I hope doesn't change is the fact that it is such a grown-up centric sport. I mean, I'm 51 years old. I was 42 when I ran my first ultra. I must have been like 47 when I ran my first 200 or something. So I've always been impressed with how many 50-year-olds and even how many 60-year-olds are in the event. And I love that because I think it's good that these events can motivate the younger folks, but also continue to motivate those who with more years under their belt. And it's a great sport for older people too. Just it's not such high impact. It's just more of that endurance. And there's so much of this event that I think that if you have a lot of life experience, you can sort of draw on that when the race gets really rough. And so I think that's an advantage to having years on you. So those are my two things, I guess, both sides of the age coin.
Well, that's a good segue into the next question here, because I heard someone recently talking about their legacy in the sport, and not necessarily like the legacy they're leaving for others and in the fame sense, but more like coming to the terms with the fact that one day, for one reason or another, they're not going to be able to do this anymore, at least not in the capacity they're doing it now. So let's say that's running in 200s. Like, do you ever think as you age into the sport, like how these races have shaped who you are and how you'll remember this part of your life where you were able to do these incredibly challenging, massive events?
Yeah, well, I think a lot about how this sport has changed my life and how the almost accidental documenting of these things led to a lot of people watching on YouTube, which sort of snowballed into me purposely making more stuff for YouTube. The confidence that's given me in certain areas of life, I feel so much more confident in some ways than I used to. But it's also, encouraged me to try new things, like go out and plan my own events or my own adventures. I'm race directing my own first race this year, and I think that's pretty cool because I feel like my story of running is going to eventually lead me to creating an event, and of course, that has its own legacy because people will now train for that event. That event will change their lives, and hopefully that'll happen for years. And so it's just like I'm taking what I can from this thing, but I'm also trying to turn it around and give it back to everybody else and give it back to the community. And I hope that the legacy I leave is a little bit of everybody else doing that same thing, taking what they need, but also giving back. I think another small piece of legacy that I feel like I'm leaving a little bit is when a lot of times when people meet me at races, they tell me, or even the comments on YouTube, people tell me about how much they appreciate how I thank the volunteers as I leave aid stations. And so I love when I'm volunteering at aid stations and I see runners making a purposeful, conscious choice to thank us on their way out. And I feel like maybe I had a small part of that. And so, yeah, I'm taking a little bit to feed me, but then I'm just giving it right back. And I hope that I encourage others to do the same.
So what's one piece of advice you'd give yourself if you could go back and give it to yourself before your first 200?
I think if I was to go back, I would have started strength training sooner. That was something that I didn't do until a bit later. That was really good to learn I should do. I probably would have also just suggested that I try to maybe not take on too many things. Sometimes I take on too many projects and I feel a bit stressed and too thin, spread too thin. Um, but at the same time, I think I would just encourage myself to do things that are challenging, because one of the things that I'm really proud of is when I did the Grand Slam of 200s in 2022, the Triple Crown plus Cocodona. It was an amazing experience that I couldn't have learned, or I couldn't have expected the thing that I learned, how my body actually got stronger throughout that whole thing. So, um, I wouldn't want to tell myself too much, because some of the things, if you know too much, then maybe you don't make the choice to do it. In the ignorance of not knowing how hard 4 200s in a year would be, I decided to do it. And I'm glad I did. If I had known, how hard, maybe I would have chose not to. But yeah, just keep going. And I think that's the thing that I tell myself during a lot of these runs too, is just it's one foot in front of the other. And that's what I've learned through these races that have kind of helped me through life too. Maybe I would have told myself that same thing when I was young.
So if you're listening to this now and you haven't been strength training, now is the time to start. Wes says, hit it hard. We've got a week or two to Cocodona here. Just dive in.
I've got 4 days. Is that enough?
Double up.
Deadlifts, Peter. No, that's awesome. All right, these next group of questions, Wes, are ones we've been asking to all guests here. Sort of some rapid fire closing questions, and it's really fun when the guest has run Cocodona several times, because their answers are indicative of that. So, what is the section you're most looking forward to this year? Favorite section on the course?
Actually, I'm actually really looking forward to the new ascent out of Sedona. Partly because the last couple or few years, as we've been going up the Kasner Canyon climb, I remember seeing across the canyon, in the cliff edge, what looked to be this road. And I remember thinking, why aren't we going up that road? It looks like it has like a nice, grade to it, not like what we're doing. So I'm really excited to finally get on that road, on that trail, and see that. It's such a beautiful part of the course. So I'm really excited to see that and see how different it is from before. So I'm excited. I guess I'm excited for something new this year.
And what about the flip side of that? Is there some section that you just dread, that you always have challenges with?
Yeah, I think it's the Mingus Mountain to Jerome section. I don't necessarily mind the super steep initial descent off that cliff, but once we cross the highway and get onto the rocky, thing that happens, I don't even know how to describe it, except that just every time I'm on that, I'm very unhappy. So I'm not looking forward to that.
I think that's the perfect way to describe it. I would describe it in the same way. Every time I'm on that, I'm very unhappy. All right, Wes, what shoes are you going to start the race in this year?
I run in Topo Athletic, and I'm going to be I'm anticipating starting in the Ultraventure Pro, which is actually a discontinued shoe. I've been training this spring in the Ultraventure 4, which is the latest in that model line. And everything had been going well, but all of a sudden my foot started to hurt a little bit, and then it hurt more and more and more. And then I said, well, let me go back to the Ultraventure Pro. I did that, and then the pain went away. So for whatever reason, that shoe, the 4, wasn't working for me. So I'm going to start out in the Pro. I'm also going to bring a pair of road shoes for later on, as appropriate. And I tend to try to switch between approximately 4 pairs of shoes throughout the race, just to sort of keep my feet happy. But the Topo Athletic Ultraventure Pro is likely what I'll be starting with.
All right. And is there an outcome of the Cocodona 250 that is not tied to placement or results or times that would make yourself proud?
Well, this year, my entire goal is just to finish. It's going to be my 5th Cocodona, which I feel really happy about having gotten this far. But with Monster a month ahead, I'm kind of terrified at what my future holds. So yeah, for me this year, it's going to be a real effort in pushing through while I'm tired and just keeping on moving and just get myself to that finish line, no matter how long it takes. So to me this year, I'm just looking for a finish, and then a very, very happy crossing the line to say thank you to everybody who supported me this far.
All right. Last question we got for you, Wes. We asked our friends over at ChatGPT how many steps you're likely to take from Black Canyon City to Flagstaff along the Cocodona 250 course. We've had some wild answers ranging from, I won't give you any hints, but there's been a big spread. Do you care to venture a guess?
I'm doing some quick math in my head about how many steps I think relates to a set of miles. And then my math is probably going to fall apart, but I'm going to guess 400,000 steps.
I think that's been our best guess yet.
Oh, right.
We've had some pretty spot on guesses, but the range that ChatGPT says, depending on your pace, stride rate, hiking versus running ratio, it went pretty deep, was 350,000 to 500,000 steps. Wow. So we've been saying 500,000 steps to Flagstaff. We've had quite a few people guess 500,000, but you're the first to be like smack in the middle of that range. So,
love it.
Yeah,
it's a lot of steps.
It's a lot of steps, but I mean, think of how fast you can just do a few of them.
Small bursts.
Yeah. All right. Cocodona 250 kicks off Monday morning, May 5th, 5 a.m. Pacific time. You'll be able to catch all the action live on the Mountain Outpost YouTube channel. There'll be an incredible team over at Aravaipa Running. We'll be bringing you nonstop race coverage. Don't forget to also follow along on Cocodona 250's social media channels for more behind-the-scenes footage, extra content there throughout the race. If you haven't watched Wes's videos on YouTube before, Google or YouTube search Wes Plate Cocodona. There's a bunch of awesome videos. If you look really closely, you'll probably spot Peter and myself somewhere in those videos at some point.
True.
He's done each year. They're great. They seem to get better each year, and I'm sure there'll be one post Cocodona or Monsterdona 2025. If you're enjoying this series, please check us out, Distance to Empty Podcast. Give us a follow on Spotify, Apple. Leave us a review if you're feeling generous. We'd love that. We are churning out 200-plus mile content every week, only podcasts fully dedicated to the 200-plus mile distance. Thanks for listening to Flagstaff Bound or watching Flagstaff Bound. And Wes, we can't wait to see you out there in Arizona.
Look forward to seeing you guys. Thanks for having me on.